Listen, if you needed one performance to remind you why Dak Prescott is the man, you got it today. He ripped off a ridiculous stat line, but what matters more is the way he did it. Calm under pressure, clutch when everything was on the line. In the fourth quarter and overtime, he drove this offense with ice in his veins. Crisp throws when windows were tiny, the kind of decision-making that turns close games into wins. You saw him complete the throws that mattered, make the reads that kept drives alive, and do the little things that don't always show up in highlights but absolutely win games. Now, let me be honest with you. We couldn't have closed that game without Brandon Aubrey. That man is a weapon. Dak moves the chains and puts us in position, but Aubrey turns those chances into points with nerves of steel. The duo has become a quiet but reliable rhythm for this offense. And when they're on, you feel like this team can outscore just about anyone in tight spots. But Dak's day isn't just about two guys. It's the melody of an offense where others are stepping up too. Javonte Williams has come alive, and even though I want another complimentary back to keep defenses honest, Williams is doing everything asked of him. CeeDee Lamb is getting his yards, and the wideouts around Dak are making plays in traffic and on contested throws. The offensive line had its moments of trouble, yet Dak found ways to move the ball. That's on him and the skill players executing under pressure. This kind of win reveals something deeper. When the defense looked shaky, Dak answered. When the line was under fire, he kept his composure and made the throws that mattered. That resilience, the team finding ways to win when everything isn't perfect, is the hallmark of teams that make noise late in the season. Quick question for you. Does Dak get the respect he deserves around the league? Drop a simple yes or no in the comments and tell me why in one sentence. If you're feeling this performance, smash that like button and help push us toward 16,000 subscribers. Every sub gets these deep dives landing in more Cowboys hands. All right, we've set the tone with Dak. Next up, I want to break down George Pickens' arrival and how he shifted the dynamic on and off the stat sheet. George Pickens has arrived, and you could feel it from the very first snap he was involved in. The box score only gives you part of the truth. 5 catches for 68 yards and a touchdown on 9 targets. But that doesn't begin to capture his real impact on this game. What stood out was the way he carried himself in key moments, talking in the huddle, pushing the offense to keep fighting when the score wasn't leaning in our favor. Tyler Smith even spoke about how Pickens' voice carried weight, reminding the team to keep going until they were home, to keep grinding no matter what the scoreboard said. That's leadership, and it's coming from a young wideout that so many critics tried to label as a problem before he even had the chance to prove himself here. Today, instead of the negative headlines, he showed what happens when his talent and his mentality line up. He was getting behind defensive backs over and over, and the only way they could stop him was by grabbing, holding, and flat-out tackling him. If not for all the pass interference penalties that he drew, we'd be talking about a monster stat line easily topping 100 yards. In fact, analysts pointed out he's already racked up close to 200 yards worth of penalty gains because defenders just can't cover him cleanly. That's respect in the ugliest form possible. Teams are scared, so they'd rather take the flag than give up the big play. And what about the confidence he showed after being criticized last week for not running routes hard enough? That's the kind of bounce-back mentality you want in a young player. He didn't sulk. He didn't shrink. He stepped up and made sure his teammates knew he was all in. Brian Schottenheimer has already praised him, and that speaks volumes about how quickly he's earning trust inside this building. Add that presence alongside CeeDee Lamb's steady production, and suddenly this passing game looks deeper, more versatile, and way harder to defend. Now here's where I want your voice in the mix. Who was the most underrated playmaker today? Pickens, Lamb, or Javonte Williams? Drop your pick in the comments, and let's see where fans are leaning. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet. We're pushing hard to reach that 16,000 subscriber milestone, and every click keeps this community growing. With Dak setting the tone and Pickens proving himself, the offense is clicking. But we've got to talk about the other weapons making this possible. Brandon Aubrey, Javonte Williams, and CeeDee Lamb. That's what's coming next. Brandon Aubrey deserves his flowers because without him, none of these tight finishes would even be possible. Every time Dak Prescott pushed the offense into position, Aubrey was right there turning drives into points with a calmness that you rarely see in a kicker. He's become more than just reliable. He's a genuine weapon, and when you think about the number of games in this league decided by a field goal or less, having that kind of steadiness is invaluable. Now, pair that with Javonte Williams, and you start to see how the Cowboys are piecing together a supporting cast that doesn't always grab headlines but makes winning possible. Williams has been one of the most surprising early stories of the season, putting up more yards and touchdowns than some of the league's star backs. He runs with power, he finishes plays, and he's forcing defenses to respect the ground game, even if we all know this team still needs a complementary piece, that lightning to his thunder. Imagine plugging in a change-of-pace back who can stretch the edges and open lanes. That's when this run game becomes truly dangerous. And of course, we can't overlook CeeDee Lamb. He continues to do what he does best, deliver consistent production. Over 100 yards again, moving the chains, making contested grabs, and setting the tone for the receiver group. He doesn't have to be flashy, he just keeps showing up. The combination of Aubrey's steady leg, Williams' physical running, and Lamb's reliable receiving gives Dak the safety net he needs when games get chaotic. That's how you build an offense that can adjust on the fly and still find ways to win. Let me throw a question at you. Do you think the Cowboys should go after another running back to pair with Williams, or is the current setup good enough to carry this team deep? Drop a simple yes or no in the comments, and if you're leaning yes, name the back you'd love to see in a Dallas uniform. And before we move forward, hit that like button if you want more roster talk, because the next piece of the puzzle is Clowney, and we need to dive into what his arrival really means for this defense. Clowney stepping into this defense is exactly the kind of move that signals the Cowboys aren't sitting still. You might look at his numbers from last season and see 5.5 sacks, but that doesn't tell the full story of his impact. He was disruptive every time he was on the field, creating pressure, forcing quarterbacks off their spots, and setting the edge against the run. Add 9 tackles for loss, double-digit quarterback hits, and several deflections, and you've got a player who still knows how to affect games. Now imagine him in a rotation here in Dallas, paired with Sam Williams, Dante Fowler, Donovan Ezeraku, and James Houston, who has been nothing short of a revelation. That's fresh legs constantly coming at offensive tackles, a rotation that keeps everyone sharp and aggressive. Clowney doesn't need to be the star, he just needs to be the professional presence that fills the gap and raises the floor of this unit. In a way, he's the closest thing to what we lost when DeMarcus Lawrence moved on, and that's why this signing makes so much sense. He's a proven run stopper, a reliable edge setter, and a guy who can still get after the quarterback when it matters. And because he won't be asked to play every snap, he should be even more effective in spurts. You can already hear the critics lining up to downplay it, but let's be real. Those voices usually come from fan bases in green who don't want to see the Cowboys stockpile weapons. The truth is, this move strengthens the defensive front and gives Dan Quinn another piece to move around. So let me put it to you. Does Clowney give the Cowboys enough juice to replace what was lost? Or do you see this as just a depth signing? Drop your take in the comments, yes or no, and explain it in one quick line. And while you're here, don't forget to subscribe to help push this channel towards 16,000 subscribers. Every click keeps this Cowboys community growing. With Clowney added to the mix, the defense has another card to play, but to wrap this all up, we need to look at the bigger picture of where this team is headed next. When you step back and look at everything together, this team is showing you something that goes beyond the box score. They're proving they can win when it isn't pretty. that they can grind out drives when the defense bends and the line is shaky, and still come out on top because leaders like Dak Prescott refuse to let the moment slip away. See George Pickens stepping into a role that's bigger than just catches and yards, showing leadership and resilience when everyone counted him out. You see Brandon Aubrey calmly nailing every chance, Javonte Williams powering through defenses, and CeeDee Lamb setting the standard week after week. And now you add Clowney to a defensive front that was already deep, and suddenly the Cowboys look like a team finding balance on both sides of the ball. Sure, there are still questions. The offensive line has to hold up. Another running back would take the ground game from good to lethal, and the defense still needs to prove it won't collapse in big moments. But what you're watching now is a team building momentum, stacking wins, and finding ways to come through under pressure. That's the DNA of a group that can make a real run, not just talk about it. The key now is consistency, continuing to put together performances where different guys step up each week and keep the standard high. So let me ask you this. Do you believe this Cowboys team has what it takes to keep building on these wins and make noise deep into the season? Drop your answer in the comments, a simple yes or no, and let's see where the fan base really stands. Before you click away, make sure you hit that subscribe button and help us hit 16,000 subscribers. Every like, every sub, every comment helps this community grow and keeps Cowboys fans connected to the latest and biggest storylines. This win was another step forward, but the road ahead is where the real test begins, and we'll be right here breaking it all down with you.